Now I'd like to show you how to make a Dharma bead ball. There are 108 beads in every Dharma bead ball. They're organized into 5 rows. There are a total of 32 hexagons and 6 squares in this structure. I like to, you can build it in many, many ways. Start wherever you want, but let me show you where I start and how I build it. I like to start with the equator, okay, which contains a total of 12 rings. And there are a total of 8 hexagons and 4 squares in the equator. I like to build the equator by making a ladder. You've all made right angle weave ladders, right? This is a ladder that combines squares with hexagons. Everything starts, well, I start with a ring of 4 beads. These are 6 millimeter long by 1.5 millimeter wide sterling silver bugle beads, possibly called needle bugles, I'm not sure. Any kind of long and narrow metal bugle should work. Fat bugles, when I've tried them, I don't get such a beautiful streamlined shape, but you go ahead and try them. I do like the long, narrow bugles. Okay, so I like to bead clockwise, so I always want to keep my thread facing left, okay, as I work. That helps orient me. And what I'm going to build first is this equator right here, okay? So we have the first square in place, and now we're going to build a hexagon. One of the beads in the hexagon is already in place, so we're going to add a total of 5 beads. Now, advanced beaders among you might want to just look at this ladder here and reproduce the ladder. You don't have to, obviously you don't have to sit through the instructions that I'll be doing here, the demonstration. And you could stop back later. Anyway, our first hexagon is in place, and now we need to navigate upwards until we're at the top, coming out of the bead at the top of the hexagon, which is this bead here. Okay. And now we're going to build another hexagon. We're going to add 5 beads. And then go back through the bead that we just came out of. So we're going to go back through this bead, the top bead in the hexagon, like this. And there we go. We've built our second hexagon. Things are a little bit loose, I can see here in this hexagon. So we'll try to tighten things up to the extent that we can. I generally leave reinforcing till a little bit later with this structure. So we will reinforce after we build the entire ladder. Lightly reinforce, not heavily. Now we're going to navigate up to the top of this hexagon. Okay, so we're coming out of this bead here, and now we want to create a square like this here. So we add 3 beads. Go back through the bead we just came out of. That's this bead here. And pull. Maybe do a little tightening. Oh, I ended up, is this right? Yeah, no, this is right. Yeah, I get in the habit of double checking. How many beads have I really added? Sometimes I get completely off track. Navigate up to the top of this square until you're going through this bead here and pull. All right, now we have to add 2 more hexagons. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're adding 5 beads to build each hexagon because 1 bead is already in place. So we've got our 5 beads added here. And now we're going to go back through the bead we just came out of. That's this bead here. Go back through this bead. Great. Now I would flip over and navigate up to the top of this hexagon. Beautiful. Add 5 beads. And navigate insert the needle back through this bead here. Great. Now we navigate up to the top of this hexagon. And we go through the very top bead, which is this bead here. And then we pull. All right, where are we here? We're easily halfway done and somewhat more. Next we're going to build a square. 1 bead is in place, so we're going to add 3 beads. Go back through the bead that we just came out of. That's this bead. And pull. And navigate up to the top of the square. Go through this bead here. All right, where are we? We have to create 2 more hexagons. So we're going to add 5 beads. Insert the needle through the bead we just came out of. That's this bead. And pull. Flip over. Navigate up to the top of this hexagon until you're going through this bead here. And pull. Add 5 beads. Go back through the bead that you just came out of, like this. And pull, and where are we? We need to navigate up to the top of the hexagon. Until we're coming out this bead here. And let's check, where are we? We only have to add 1 more square and 1 more hexagon, okay? To create the square, add 3 beads. And go back through the bead you just came out of, which is this bead. And pull. And navigate up to add the last hexagon that we need to add in our ladder before we turn it into a ring. All right, so let's add 5 beads. And pull. Okay, so we have built the ladder, and next I advise you to reinforce the ladder, excuse me, at least once. Go through each ring at least once, excuse me, circling all the way around the ring. And then if you wish, go through each ring a second time, okay? Until the ladder is not all wobbly and loose, right, and flimsy, but until it kind of wants to start holding its shape, till it's a little bit more firm, okay? So I'm going to set this one aside now, and I'm going to switch to this one, which I already reinforced. Okay, the first step in turning this ladder into a tube or a ring is to add 2 beads. And then bend the 2 ends of the ladder around until they're almost touching. You're going to go through the top bead in this square that used to sit at the bottom of the ladder and pull. Now I would probably flip it around. We're creating the final hexagon. Only 2 beads are left to add. So let's go through this bead here and pull, okay? And now I would reinforce this final hexagon, you know, certainly once, possibly twice, in any way that you want to. And then we're going to start building what I'm calling row 2. I'm calling the equator row 1. Even though it sits in the middle of a structure, I'm calling it row 1, okay? Because that's how we started to build the structure. Great. Okay, so we're ready to start building row 2. Row 2 consists of 8 hexagons, interlocking hexagons. An easy way to do this, the way that I love, and if you're a beginner, the way you might want to use, is to start building your hexagons from squares first. So build a hexagon off of this square, navigate over, and then build one off of this square, and etc. Then you'll see it's so easy if you start that way. Then you don't get lost, you don't lose your place, and actually you can go pretty fast. So right now I'm navigating over to my closest square, which is here. Now, check out this square. 3 of the beads, one to the left and one to the right and one in the middle, are already in place for our hexagon, our first hexagon. We have to get into position, so we have to navigate over through this bead and get into position. Our base is already ready. 3 beads in the base. We just have to add 3 more to complete this hexagon. And you're not sure? Check and see which bead should you go through to create a perfect hexagon. And the beads will not lie. The beads will tell you. This is that game called Ask the Beads, okay? So the beads want us to go through this bead right here. So that's exactly what we'll do. There we go. That's our first hexagon in row 2. And now you could just build your next hexagon right next door, or you could do it in a slightly easier way, which works well if you're learning. And if you have enough room in your holes, in the holes of your beads, to do this. That's why we don't reinforce too much as we're making the structure. We tend to wait until the end. All right, so I'm navigating over to the next square, okay? I'm gonna go through that bead in the square. There are already 3 beads in place. For our next hexagon, that's 1, 2, 3. To get into position, we go through this bead here and pull. All right, add 3 beads. 1, 2, 3. And go through the 1 bead that allows you to create a hexagon. And that's this bead right here. It sits just to the upper right of the square. We'll go through that one. And pull. And now I'm going to navigate over to the next square. We have 2 more hexagons to build in row 2. And when we do that, we'll be halfway done. And you'll see how easy it is to build the rest once these are built. Go through the top bead in this square, like this. Navigate over 1 bead. Not sure what that thread is doing there, but I'm not going to stop to investigate right now. I'm just going to go through that bead. Okay. So to get into position, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to leave that to add the next hexagon. So 3 beads are in place. 1, 2, 3. And so we add 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Go through this bead here, which is the bead just to the upper right of the square, and pull. Navigate over through the bead at the top of the square, the bead at the lower left of the hexagon. Interesting. There seems to be some kind of strange roadblock here. Don't know what's going on, but we won't stop to look into it right now. We'll deal with it later. We'll just keep going. We have 1 more square to navigate over to. And here we are. We already know that we have to go to the bead that's just to the upper left of the square. It's kind of like an arm, and add 3 beads. And then go through the only bead that allows us to create a perfect hexagon, which is this bead. Sort of like this arm here to the next, to the right of the square, and pull. All right. Now, do you see what we formed here? We formed the first 4 hexagons out of 8. All we have to do now is circle around and add 2 beads to form this one, this hexagon, 2 to form this one, 2 to form this one. And I think, is it 2? I think it's, yeah, it's 2 to form this one, okay? This is going to be super fast and easy. And we did not lose our place. We did not get lost. Okay, now you can build the remaining hexagons any way you want, but because I like to work in a clockwise fashion, I'm going to build from the left over to the right, just to be systematic. So we have to go through this bead too. Right, so we're just going to add 2 beads. And all we have to do is form a hexagon. So we'll go back through the only bead that allows us to do that, and that's this bead here, and pull. Now we're going to navigate over to complete the next hexagon. That'll be hexagon number 6, I think. Is that right? Or is that hexagon 5? So, yeah, this will be hexagon number 6 that we're working on now. All right, I'm going to cross over through the beads that will form the base of this next hexagon, coming up out of this bead here, add 2 beads, 1, 2. Go down through the only bead that allows us to create a perfect hexagon, that's this one here, and pull. Navigate over. Great. And now we're going to add 2 beads to complete this hexagon. Go back through the only bead that allows you to create a perfect hexagon. That's this one. Navigate over. past this very strange roadblock here. Thankfully, we can go through it anyway. To complete the final hexagon. Here it is right here, the empty space. Soon it will be completed. The hexagon, I mean. Add 2 beads. 1, 2, and go through the only bead that lets you create another hexagon. Encountering some difficulty at the roadblock, but I know we can get beyond it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now you see only very little work is left to do. We only have to create 4 more hexagons and 1 more square. Actually, as we create the hexagons, we will be creating the square. Okay, so we already finished rows 1 and 2, and now we're going to create this next row, row 3, with just making 4 hexagons. You know, I'm going to take a minute and reinforce row 2, and we'll get right back to work in a second. Okay, let's get into position to start creating row 3. To do that, we're going to navigate to the left until we're in position. We're going to go up through this bead here, and then add 3 beads. Then we go down through this bead here and pull. There we've got a perfect hexagon. Navigate over. We're going to build the next hexagon. See? 1 out of 4 is in place. And we're going to navigate over some more. And go through this bead. And this bead. Now 4 of the beads are already in place for our next hexagon, so we only have to add 2. Let's go down through the only bead that will allow us to create a perfect hexagon. That's this bead. And then we're going to navigate over. To get into position to form the 3rd hexagon in row 3. Okay, only 2 beads have to be added because 4 are in place. Let's insert the needle through this bead here. And pull. And now we're going to go over and get in position to create the last hexagon. And we'll soon see that 5 of the beads in this hexagon are in place. So we only have to add 1. Then we go down through this bead here and over through this bead here. And next we're going to work our way up to the very top, to the square that we just built as we were building row 3. The square sits at the top of row 3. Here it is, right here. All we have to do is connect these beads, and then we're actually done building the structure. We will want to take some time to reinforce the structure until this top part of the structure, until it's as firm as we want it to be. Or we can just go on, flip the structure over, and start building rows 4 and 5. And to do that, you would just navigate through these beads here until you're exactly where you were 2 rows ago, and start building off of your squares, off of your 4 squares. Build 1 hexagon each, and then fill in the hexagons, and etc. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And then reinforce until your structure is as firm as you want it to be. Okay? Congratulations. You will soon be done with your first Dharma bead. Please, make variations, do whatever you want with it. Have fun. I'll see you in the next video. So I want to show you how I would turn one of these Dharma bead balls into an earring. Because I'm a metalsmith, it's easy for me to take a sterling silver flat round disc and dap it into a dome, and then drill 4 holes, and then add a jump ring here and attach a lever back, right? Normally I would use one like this, which is made from a commercial sterling dome that already has holes in it, but it's too small. I didn't like this look. I think it's just too small. I prefer this more expansive look here. Just a little bit more stylish maybe. So I already attached a needle and thread to one of the most flat squares in this structure. Some of the squares ended up being kind of wobbly or uneven. So I chose an especially even square to attach the cap. So all I'm going to do is fit the cap to the structure, try to orient it in a way that will make that will allow the lever back to sit frontwards. I might not be saying that exactly correctly. And then all I'm going to do is go into this hole here and pull, add a bead. I'm using slightly larger beads. These are maybe 2.5, 3 millimeter, because I want a more, stylish look for this. So the round beads make a nice accent, I think, to the bugle beads. All right, there we go. I'll see if I can go through this bugle bead. They're pretty tight now because I reinforced pretty well. And if I can't go through, no problem, I'll go around. So I'm going around. Any way that you can anchor this to the Dharma bead ball, to anchor the cap. It's going to be uneven at the beginning. It's not going to become even for a while yet. And now I would put my needle all the way through to the opposite side of this structure. Make it come out the other side, okay? And then I would stitch on a bead to the other side. This can be tricky. I definitely lose my place at times. I feel like I didn't go through the right one, but that's easily corrected. I'll just go through this one, okay? And I'm going to insert the needle up through this hole. Add 1 bead. And go back down through that same hole. Take a moment to see where we are. I would pinch up on the first bead, then pinch up on the second bead, and then pull. Okay, we're still very, very loose here. Try to figure out which is the front. That's the front. Oh, now I would insert the needle over to this hole here, in the structure and then navigate up through this hole here. Add a bead. Go down through the same hole in the cap. Come out anywhere that you can. Pinch up on the bead to tighten. Could try pinching up on these other beads too. See if they produce any tightening. They will get tight over time. All right, now I have one hole in the cap left to fill. So I'm going to insert my needle right through the structure to the opposite side here. And then bring the needle up through this one last hole and add a bead. Go down through that hole, go back out, pull up on the bead you just added, pull up on the previous bead. Slowly pull up on all the beads to see which produces the most tightening. They will be tight in the end. All right, so now the cap is kind of lopsided. I'm going to reorient it. I'm going to check where is the front again. Oh, here's the front. So I'm going to be especially careful to get the cap evenly situated across the front, okay? So that the structure hangs beautifully, so it looks kind of natural, okay? And from now on, it really is just a matter of reinforcing, of going back through the beads you already added by stitching up through the hole and over through the bead and then back down through the hole. And then I would go to the opposite side and do the same, you know, all the while maintaining a good close eye on where is the front and how can I make the front the most even. The front is also where you would be most likely to take a photo of this earring or this pair of earrings. So that's another reason to get the front aligned well, evenly situated. Yes, you could always switch the lever back from front to back. Yeah, for sure. You can do that too. And now I would navigate over 1/4 turn to here. I would insert the needle up through this hole in the cap, go over through this bead, and go back down. All right, where's our front? It's here, still very, very loose. It's going to take time to get tighter. I'll skip a 1/4 turn over to the left, go up through this hole, go through the bead, go back down through the hole, and so on. You get the idea. That's all there is to it. You just keep stitching until the cap is very securely attached, okay? And I think that's a beautiful finish. Anyway, I hope you like it, and I'll see you in the next video. Please subscribe. See you soon.